I am Amanda Wilson, and I just turned 30 years old. For weeks, my family kept mysteriously hinting at something special for my birthday. My mom would smile knowingly during our calls. My dad checked his calendar repeatedly, and my sister Stephanie kept accidentally mentioning a celebration, then changing the subject. I was excited, expecting something memorable for this milestone. But when the day came, I walked into an empty house and discovered the truth that shattered my heart. If you're joining me today, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe to hear what happened when something big was coming, but it was never meant for me. Growing up in a tight-knit family in suburban Chicago shaped my expectations about celebrations. As a marketing professional at a downtown firm, I had always maintained close ties with my parents Julia and Thomas, my older brother Eric, my younger brother Kevin, and my sister Stephanie. Our family prided itself on making birthdays special, a tradition that started in my childhood and continued into adulthood. Being the middle child between my brothers meant I sometimes felt lost in the shuffle, but birthdays were different. On birthdays, each family member became the center of attention. My parents made sure of that. I remember my 16th birthday when my parents transformed our backyard into a miniature carnival with games and a cotton candy machine. For my 21st, the entire family took a weekend trip to Nashville. My 25th featured a surprise party where relatives from 3 states traveled to celebrate. This 30th birthday felt particularly significant. I had recently received a promotion at work, finalizing a major client campaign that increased their engagement by 40%. Entering a new decade of life with career success made me feel I was finally stepping fully into adulthood. I wanted to celebrate that transition with the people who mattered most. The hints started about a month before my birthday. My mom Julia called more frequently than usual, asking seemingly random questions about my schedule. "Are you sure you can take your birthday off work?" she asked during one call, her voice carrying a note of anticipation I could not miss. "Yes, I already put in for the day," I confirmed. "Good. Good," she replied, then quickly changed the subject when I tried to probe further. Dad was even worse at hiding his excitement. During our weekly Sunday dinner, I caught him checking his phone calendar repeatedly, angling it away when he noticed me looking. When I asked what he was planning, he cleared his throat nervously. "Nothing important," he said, excusing himself to the kitchen for the 3rd time that evening. My sister Stephanie, normally terrible at keeping secrets, became mysteriously unavailable, canceling our traditional pre-birthday shopping trip with a vague excuse about deadlines. When we did speak, she seemed distracted, once mentioning the celebration before backtracking awkwardly. "What celebration?" I asked. "Your birthday dinner, of course," she replied too quickly, her cheeks flushing. "Nothing special. Just dinner." Even my boyfriend Brian, usually straightforward and honest to a fault, began acting suspiciously. We had been dating for 2 years, and he knew how much I valued family traditions. Lately, he checked his phone constantly during our dates, smiling at messages he claimed were just work stuff. When I suggested plans for my actual birthday morning, he seemed oddly hesitant before agreeing. My colleagues noticed my growing excitement. Megan, my cubicle neighbor and closest work friend, commented on my cheerfulness as my birthday approached. "Someone is certainly looking forward to turning 30, she teased one afternoon as I checked my personal email for the 3rd time, hoping for clues. "My family is planning something big," I confided. "They keep dropping hints about a surprise." "That sounds amazing," Megan replied. "Your family always goes all out for celebrations." I spent evenings planning the perfect outfit for whatever event might be coming. I settled on a navy blue dress that made my eyes stand out, arranging to have my hair styled the day before. Taking the day off work required shuffling several client meetings, but I wanted to be fully available for whatever my family had planned. As my birthday drew closer, the anticipation built to an almost uncomfortable level. I found myself analyzing every conversation, searching for hidden meanings in casual remarks. The hints had created such expectation that I could hardly think of anything else. Whatever they planned, it was clearly going to be memorable. The morning of my 30th birthday, I woke up early, filled with anticipation. I reached for my phone, expecting a flood of messages. Instead, I found only 3 notifications: an automated birthday email from an online retailer, a generic Facebook message from a high school acquaintance, and a text from Brian. Morning, happy birthday. Sorry, emergency at work. Need to cancel breakfast. We'll call later. No emoji. No elaboration. None of the warmth I expected from my boyfriend on my birthday. I sat up in bed, feeling the first twinge of unease. Brian worked in software development, and while emergencies happened, his message seemed unusually abrupt. I called my mom, expecting her usual enthusiastic birthday greeting. Instead, she answered sounding harried and distracted. Happy birthday, sweetie, she said, her voice lacking its usual warmth. Sorry, too busy to talk right now. We will catch up later, okay? Before I could respond, she had ended the call. I stared at my phone, confusion mounting. This was not how my mother typically behaved on family birthdays. Last year, she had called singing at the exact minute of my birth, a tradition she maintained for all her children. I tried my dad next, but the call went straight to voicemail. My siblings did not answer either. The excitement I had felt upon waking began to deflate, replaced by a growing sense of bewilderment. Despite having taken the day off, I found myself getting dressed for work. I could not bear the thought of sitting alone in my apartment all day. At least at the office, I would have human interaction. The marketing agency where I worked typically acknowledged birthdays with cupcakes and cards. Not a grand celebration, but something. When I arrived, Megan looked up from her computer with surprise. Amanda? What are you doing here? I thought you took the day off. Change of plans, I replied, trying to sound casual. Thought I would catch up on some projects. I waited for her to mention my birthday, but she simply nodded and returned to her screen. Throughout the morning, several colleagues greeted me normally, without any acknowledgement of the day. By noon, when no cupcakes appeared and no one had signed a card, I realized they had not been reminded of my birthday at all. This was unusual. Our office administrator Karen religiously tracked employee birthdays. When I passed her desk on the way to the break room, she smiled without a hint of recognition. Nice day today, is it not? She said pleasantly. It is my birthday, I blurted out, immediately feeling childish. Karen looked genuinely surprised. Oh, happy birthday. I do not have that on my calendar this year. Someone must have forgotten to update the sheet. I retreated to my desk, embarrassment mixing with growing disappointment. By 3 p.m, I decided to leave. There was no point pretending this was a normal workday. As I packed my bag, Megan approached cautiously. Everything okay? You seem off today. I considered confiding in her but held back. Just not feeling great. Think I will head home. Feel better, she said, her expression unreadable. Driving home, I thought back to my 25th birthday. I had arrived at my parents' house that evening to complete darkness, only to have lights flipped on revealing 40 friends and family members shouting surprise. Perhaps that was happening again? The thought brightened my mood momentarily. I tried calling my family members again. Dad's phone still went to voicemail. Mom texted that she was in a meeting. Eric did not respond at all. Kevin sent a brief HBD sis with no further elaboration. These were not the responses I was accustomed to from my celebration-loving family. By 5 o'clock, I had nearly convinced myself I was overreacting. Birthdays as an adult were different. People had responsibilities, work commitments, lives that did not revolve around celebration. Just as I was making peace with a quiet evening alone, my phone pinged with a text from my dad. Be home by 6. Something big is coming. My spirits soared. So there was a surprise after all. I rushed to shower and change into my carefully selected dress, applied makeup, and styled my hair. Whatever they had planned, I would be ready. The disappointment of the morning faded as excitement took its place again. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door, anticipation building with each step. I arrived at my parents' suburban home at exactly 6, my heart racing with renewed excitement. The driveway was empty, which seemed odd, but I figured everyone must be inside waiting. Perhaps they had parked down the street to avoid giving away the surprise. I approached the front door, listening for hushed voices or shuffling movements that might betray a house full of hidden guests. Nothing. Complete silence greeted me. I turned my key in the lock and pushed open the door. "Hello?" I called out, stepping into the darkened foyer. No response came. No lights flipped on, no chorus of surprise erupted from concealed friends and family. I moved through the house, flipping on lights as I went. The living room sat empty, the dining room undisturbed. No decorations hung from walls or ceilings, no balloons floated in corners. The kitchen showed no signs of party preparations, no cake waited on the counter. "Mom? Dad?" I called again, my voice echoing through the empty rooms. "Stephanie? Anyone?" On the kitchen table sat a single envelope with my name written on it in my mother's handwriting. Inside was a store-bought birthday card signed by my parents with a generic message. "Happy 30th birthday. Love, Mom and Dad." No mention of plans, no explanation for their absence, no hint of the something big my father had promised. Confusion gave way to hurt as I checked my phone. No missed calls, no explanatory texts. I opened Instagram, thinking perhaps there had been some miscommunication about timing or location. The first post in my feed was from my mother, uploaded 20 minutes earlier. The photo showed her and my father at O'Hare Airport, standing in front of a departure board with small suitcases beside them. The caption read, "Unexpected trip. Sometimes you just have to seize the moment. #spontaneous #adventure." My stomach dropped. They had left town on my birthday? Without telling me? I scrolled further, finding a post from my brother Eric tagged at Riverside Grill, his arm around his girlfriend Cassandra. Captioned, "Thursday night tradition with my favorite person." He had ignored my birthday for a regular date night? I checked my texts again, sending messages to everyone. Where is everyone? Dad said to be at the house by 6 for something big. Did I miss something? Hello? It is my birthday. Where is everyone? No responses came, my fingers trembling slightly. I opened Stephanie's profile and checked her stories. The most recent, posted an hour ago, showed her in a bridal boutique, surrounded by dress samples. The caption, "Saying yes to the perfect bridesmaid dresses. Cannot believe the big day is almost here." Bridesmaid dresses? Stephanie was not engaged as far as I knew. Her relationship with Dylan was serious, but they had not announced any plans for marriage. I scrolled back through her previous stories, finding several recent posts about wedding planning that I had somehow missed. Abandoning my phone, I moved through the house again, this time with purpose. In my father's home office, I found a stack of mail on his desk. Among the bills and magazines was an elegant cream-colored envelope addressed to my parents. I opened it, pulling out a heavy cardstock announcement. Dylan James Parker and Stephanie Marie Wilson joyfully announced their engagement and forthcoming marriage. The announcement was dated 2 weeks earlier. My sister had gotten engaged and had not told me directly. The something big everyone had been hinting at was never about my birthday at all. It was about Stephanie's engagement. A wave of hurt washed over me so intensely it felt physical. I sank into my father's desk chair, the announcement clutched in my hand. How had I misunderstood so completely? How had I convinced myself that the excitement in my family centered around my birthday when it clearly revolved around my sister's engagement? I turned to the computer. My parents still using a shared family calendar displayed on the desktop. Clicking through to the weekend after my birthday, I found an entry labeled Engagement Celebration Dylan and Stephanie 6 p.m. The details listed caterers, a photographer, and a guest list of nearly 50 people. Everyone in the family had editing access to this calendar. Everyone had seen the plans except me. The pieces fell into place with painful clarity. My family had become so consumed with Stephanie's engagement that they had completely forgotten about my birthday. The something big was never for me at all. The hints and excitement I had interpreted as birthday plans were all about the upcoming engagement party. I found myself moving through the house again, this time opening drawers and closets with frantic energy. In the guest room closet, I discovered shopping bags containing party supplies. Silver and white streamers, a banner reading "She said yes." Champagne flutes still in their packaging. An entire celebration planned and prepared for, while my birthday passed unacknowledged. The final blow came when I found a to-do list in my mother's handwriting on the refrigerator. Among items like confirm flowers and call photographer was a single line that broke my heart. Amanda's birthday Thursday remember card. Not plan Amanda's celebration or order Amanda's cake. Just remember card. I was an afterthought. A task to check off between more important engagement preparations. The realization crushed what remained of my excitement, leaving behind a hollow ache in my chest. I sank onto a kitchen chair. Alone in the silent house, the evidence of my family's priorities scattered around me. My 30th birthday, which I had anticipated for weeks, had arrived not with celebration, but with the painful awareness of where I stood in my family's attention. Not at the center, not even close. Just a note on a to-do list, easily overlooked in the excitement of something deemed more important. I drove home in a daze, tears blurring my vision as I navigated the familiar streets. The beautiful navy dress I had carefully chosen now felt ridiculous, my styled hair and makeup a monument to my misplaced expectations. The elegant shoes pinched my feet, a physical reminder of the pain squeezing my heart. Once inside my apartment, I kicked off the shoes and sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand. I had sent 17 text messages and left 8 voicemails across my family members. None had been answered. The silence felt intentional now, as though they knew they had forgotten and were avoiding confrontation. Sleep eluded me that night. I lay awake replaying years of family dynamics through this new lens. Had I always been secondary? I remembered how my high school graduation party had been scaled back because Eric needed college tuition that year. How my college acceptance celebration became a joint event when Kevin made the football team the same week. Small moments that had not seemed significant at the time now formed a pattern I could not unsee. Morning brought no relief. I called in sick to work, unable to face concerned questions or well-meaning colleagues. Social media became a source of torture as I scrolled through photos of Stephanie and Dylan, their faces glowing with happiness. The comments section overflowed with congratulations from relatives and friends, many of whom had not acknowledged my birthday. Around noon, my phone finally rang with Stephanie's name on the screen. I answered immediately, a complicated mix of hurt and hope rising in my chest. Amanda. Oh my God, I have been trying to reach you all morning. Her voice bubbled with excitement. No trace of apology or awareness. Where were you yesterday? I asked, my voice smaller than intended. Shopping for bridesmaid dresses with Dylan's sisters. Wait until you see what we picked. You are going to love them. Speaking of which, we need to schedule your fitting. Are you free next Tuesday? The casual way she spoke, as if nothing significant had happened, as if my birthday had not passed unmarked, broke something inside me. It was my birthday yesterday, Stephanie. The words came out flat, emotionless. A pause, then, oh my God. Your birthday. Amanda. I completely forgot. With all the engagement stuff and planning the party, it just slipped my mind. I am so sorry. Everyone forgot. Mom, Dad, Eric, Kevin. No one remembered. That cannot be right. Mom always remembers birthdays. They went to the airport yesterday. Dad told me to come to the house because something big was coming. I found the engagement announcement. Another pause. Longer this time. They flew to meet Dylan's parents in Denver. Last minute thing. Amanda, I am so sorry about your birthday. With the engagement happening, everything has been crazy. When did you get engaged? I asked, the question that had been burning inside me. 2 weeks ago. Dylan proposed earlier than planned. He was going to wait until after your birthday. But then his grandmother got sick, and he wanted her to know before, well, So he did it early. We were going to tell you in person at your birthday dinner. But then the dinner got postponed because of the Denver trip, and everything just snowballed. Postponed. I repeated, clinging to the word. There was a dinner planned? Of course there was. Mom had reservations at Morton's. But with the engagement and then Dylan's grandmother, everything got rescheduled. We figured your birthday dinner could happen next week instead. It is not like 30 is going anywhere. The casual dismissal of my milestone birthday ignited the anger that had been building beneath my hurt. Not like 30 is going anywhere? Are you serious right now? You all forgot my birthday because your engagement was more important, and you think postponing my celebration is no big deal. Amanda, you are overreacting. It is just a birthday. We can celebrate next week. Just a birthday? For weeks, everyone has been hinting about something big coming. I thought you were planning something special for me. Instead, you were all excited about your engagement and forgot I even existed. That is not fair. Stephanie's voice hardened. You always do this, make everything about you. I got engaged. This is a huge moment in my life. I am sorry about your birthday, truly, but you could at least pretend to be happy for me instead of making me feel guilty. Making everything about me? Are you kidding? I just wanted my family to remember my 30th birthday. That is the bare minimum. The argument escalated, years of unspoken resentments surfacing. Words flew between us, sharp and wounding. I accused her of always needing to be the center of attention. She called me selfish and immature. By the time we hung up, both in tears, the rift between us felt irreparable. The day continued its downward spiral as social media algorithms, sensing engagement with Stephanie's photos, pushed more and more family content to my feed. Distant relatives commenting on the engagement. Friends sharing the announcement. An aunt I had not spoken to in months writing a gushing post about our beautiful bride-to-be without a single mention of my birthday. I deleted my birthday reminder from Facebook, unable to bear the thought of belated wishes trickling in once people realized they had forgotten. Then I disabled notifications entirely, silencing the constant ping of Stephanie's engagement congratulations. That evening, I found myself standing in front of my bathroom mirror, hardly recognizing the woman staring back. Eyes puffy from crying, complexion pale from lack of sleep, an emptiness behind the gaze that frightened me. 30 years old, and I felt invisible in my own family narrative. A bottle of wine later, I drafted a scathing family group text detailing exactly how their behavior had made me feel. My finger hovered over the send button for long minutes before I deleted the draft. Another message took its place, this one to my boss, requesting the rest of the week off for personal reasons. At least at work, my absence would be noticed. The second night passed no better than the first. Sleep came in fitful bursts, interrupted by dreams of arriving at parties where no one could see or hear me. I woke repeatedly to check my phone, finding a few text messages from family members that missed the point entirely. From Mom, sorry we missed your birthday, sweetie. Denver was last minute. We'll make it up to you. From Dad, 30 looks good on you, kiddo. Dinner next week? From Eric, belated HBD sis. You see Steph's news? Pretty cool, right? None acknowledged the depth of hurt their forgetfulness had caused. None seemed to understand that the issue went beyond a missed dinner or delayed celebration. It was about feeling valued. About having my milestone treated with the same importance as other family events. It was about belonging. By the third day, my hurt had calcified into something harder. A protective shell around my wounded heart. I stopped responding to messages, stopped checking social media. I ordered takeout and watched mindless television, ignoring the occasional knock at my door. When Brian called for the 5th time, I sent him to voicemail again, unable to explain the depth of my pain even to him. My phone remained silent for hours that afternoon, as if my family had collectively decided to give me space. Then, as evening approached, it suddenly exploded with activity. Message after message. Call after call, my screen lighting up with notifications. The dam had broken and 30 years of family history came flooding through. 3 days after my forgotten birthday, my phone would not stop ringing. First came Brian, then Mom, then Stephanie, then Dad, all calling within minutes of each other. When I did not answer, text messages poured in. Amanda, please pick up. We need to talk. Brian, sweetie, we made a terrible mistake. Call me back. Mom, I am so sorry. I had no idea how much we hurt you. Stephanie, Pumpkin, please answer. We were wrong. Dad, I stared at the messages, not understanding the sudden shift. What had changed? Why the flood of apologies now, when 3 days of silence had passed? I finally answered Brian's call, my voice hoarse from crying and disuse. What is happening? Why is everyone calling me? Can I come over? Brian asked, his voice tight with emotion. I need to explain in person. 20 minutes later, he stood in my living room, looking as exhausted as I felt. Without preamble, he pulled out his phone and showed me an email chain dating back 6 weeks. The subject line read, Amanda's 30th surprise plans. The participants included my entire family, several friends, and Brian. We had been planning your surprise party for months, he explained, scrolling through pages of messages. Your parents rented a venue. Stephanie was in charge of the guest list. I was handling the music and slideshow. Eric and Kevin were coordinating with friends from different parts of your life. It was going to be amazing. I sank onto the couch, struggling to process this information against the reality of my forgotten birthday. What happened? I whispered. Brian sat beside me, continuing to scroll through the emails. Dylan proposed to Stephanie 2 weeks earlier than planned. His grandmother is very ill, and he wanted her to be part of the engagement. The timing threw everything off. Your parents had to fly to Denver to meet his family before the grandmother's condition worsened. The venue for your party had a pipe burst and canceled our reservation 3 days before your birthday. He showed me frantic emails from my mother trying to secure an alternate location. Messages from my father about rescheduling flights to make it back in time. Updates from Stephanie about juggling engagement announcements and birthday preparations. Everything fell apart at once. Brian continued. Your family thought they could postpone your celebration until next week when things calmed down. They assumed you would understand once they explained. They did not realize you had no idea about any of the original plans. So they just forgot my birthday? Completely? Not forgot exactly. More like they thought they could shift it slightly and it would be fine. Your mom left a card and told your dad to make sure you got it. Your dad thought he told you about the change of plans in his text, but he only mentioned coming to the house, not why or that no one would be there. A comedy of errors, I said bitterly. Until this morning, Brian added, his expression grave. Megan from your office called Stephanie. She was worried about you missing work, about how upset you seemed on your birthday. When Stephanie realized you had gone to the house expecting a celebration and found nothing, that no one had clearly communicated with you. He did not need to finish. The flood of calls and texts made sense now. My family had finally realized the magnitude of their mistake, the depth of hurt they had caused. Why did no one call me on my actual birthday? I asked. The question that had haunted me for days. Brian looked down. Everyone thought someone else was coordinating with you. Your mom thought your dad had called to explain the postponement. Your dad thought Stephanie had talked to you about the engagement timing. Stephanie thought I was taking you to breakfast and would explain everything. I thought your parents had already told you about the Denver trip. We all dropped the ball, Amanda. Badly. My phone rang again, my mother's face appearing on the screen. This time, I answered and put her on speaker. Amanda, thank God, she began, her voice breaking. We need to talk. I am here, I replied flatly. Brian is with me. He showed me the emails. Oh, sweetie. I do not even know where to begin. We messed up so terribly. Your birthday party was planned down to the last detail. Then everything went wrong at once. And instead of making sure you knew what was happening, we all assumed someone else was handling it. By the time we realized no one had clearly explained to you, it was too late. I sat alone on my birthday, Mom. I went to your empty house because Dad told me something big was coming. I found out about Stephanie's engagement from an announcement in your mail. Do you have any idea how that felt? A sharp intake of breath, then, I cannot imagine, sweetheart. There is no excuse. None at all. Put her on video, I heard my father say in the background. The call switched to FaceTime, revealing my parents sitting together on what looked like a hotel bed, both red-eyed and distressed. We flew back early, Dad explained. As soon as we understood what happened. The engagement celebration is postponed. Everything is on hold until we make this right with you. Make it right how? I asked. Years of feeling secondary suddenly crystallizing into clarity. This is not just about my birthday. This is about a pattern. My whole life, my accomplishments, my milestones have always taken a back seat to everyone else's. Do you even realize that? My parents exchanged startled glances. That is not true, my mother protested weakly. It is true. I insisted, my voice gaining strength. My high school graduation party got downsized because of Eric's college expenses. My college acceptance celebration became about Kevin making the football team. Every time something important happens in my life, something else takes precedence. And I always step aside, always understand, always put my feelings last. Amanda, my father began, but I cut him off. I am not doing it anymore. I am tired of being the understanding one, the reasonable one. The one whose celebrations can be postponed because something else came up. I deserve better from my family. The silence that followed my declaration stretched long enough that I thought the call had frozen. Then my mother spoke, her voice small and pained. You are right. And I never saw it until now. Another call beeped through, Stephanie requesting to join. I accepted, bringing her into the conversation. Her face appeared, streaked with tears. I heard everything, she admitted. I have been on the other line with Brian. Amanda, I am so sorry. Not just about your birthday, but for every time I made things about me instead of celebrating you. The family conversation that followed was unlike any we had ever had. Years of unspoken feelings emerged, painful truths acknowledged, tears shed on all sides. My brothers joined the call, adding their own apologies and recollections. For 2 hours, we talked openly about family dynamics that had shaped our relationships without any of us fully recognizing the patterns. When the call finally ended, I felt emotionally drained but also strangely liberated. For the first time, my family had truly heard me. Whether lasting change would come remained to be seen. But at least the issues were now in the open. After hanging up, I turned to Brian. I need some time to process all of this. He nodded, understanding without me having to explain further. What can I do? I considered the question carefully, then made a decision that surprised even me. Nothing right now. I need space. Not just from my family, but from everything connected to this situation. I need to figure out what I want going forward. That night, I did something I had never done before. I booked a solo trip to a coastal town I had always wanted to visit, a place with no family connections or memories. I packed a bag, wrote a letter explaining my need for space, and left it on my kitchen counter for Brian to find. Then I composed an email to my family, laying out my feelings clearly and calmly, explaining that I needed time away to reflect on our relationships and my place within the family system. I turned off my phone as I drove to the airport, a symbolic act of disconnection that felt both terrifying and necessary. Standing at the departure gate, I nearly turned back, almost called Brian to come get me. The pull of familiar patterns, of being the accommodating daughter and sister, tugged at me strongly. But as my flight was called, I took a deep breath and moved forward. For once, I was choosing myself first. The hurt of my forgotten birthday had catalyzed something important, something long overdue. I was finally acknowledging my own needs and setting boundaries around how I deserved to be treated, even by those I loved most. As the plane lifted off, carrying me away from the pain and toward an uncertain but necessary journey of self-discovery, I felt the first tentative stirrings of something that had been missing during my birthday disappointment: hope. The coastal town of Newport welcomed me with open arms, its salt-laden air and rhythmic waves providing a backdrop for my healing. I checked into a small bed and breakfast run by a woman named Eleanor, whose silver hair and kind eyes reminded me of the grandmother I had lost years ago. When she asked what brought me to Newport alone, I surprised myself by telling her the truth. I am here because my family forgot my 30th birthday, and it made me realize I needed to reassess some relationships in my life. Instead of the awkward sympathy I expected, Eleanor nodded thoughtfully. Forgotten celebrations often reveal cracks in foundations we thought were solid. The question is whether those cracks can be repaired or if a new foundation needs to be built. Her wisdom became a touchstone during my 2-week stay. Each morning, I walked along the shore, collecting shells and thoughts in equal measure. I bought a journal from a local bookshop and filled pages with memories, patterns, hopes, and fears. Writing became a form of excavation, unearthing family dynamics I had normalized but never truly examined. I remembered the Christmas when I received practical gifts while my siblings opened extravagant presents. The family vacation where my activity suggestions were routinely overruled. The way my parents called Stephanie and my brothers several times a week but expected me to initiate contact. Small inequities that had accumulated over decades, creating an imbalance I had felt but never named. 5 days into my self-imposed exile, I turned my phone back on, bracing for a barrage of messages. They were there, hundreds of them, but not with the demanding tone I had feared. Instead, I found thoughtful, respectful communications acknowledging my need for space while expressing love and regret. From my mother, taking time to reflect on how we have treated you over the years. Realizing patterns I never saw before. Here when you are ready to talk. All my love. From my father, missing you, Pumpkin. Your mother and I are in counseling to understand how we created these family dynamics. Proud of you for standing up for yourself. Take all the time you need. From Stephanie. The engagement party is officially postponed until we make things right with you. Dylan agrees completely. I have been thinking about all the times I took center stage and pushed you aside. I am so sorry, sis. Love you more than you know. Even my brothers, not typically emotionally expressive, had sent heartfelt messages acknowledging their roles in the family patterns. I responded simply, thanking them for respecting my space and letting them know I was safe and taking time to process. Then I returned to my journal and walks, continuing the internal work I had begun. On my 10th day in Newport, I opened my door to find Brian standing there, uncertainty written across his features. Before you say anything, he began. I am not here to bring you back or pressure you. Your note said you would call when ready, and I respect that. But I wanted to bring you something. He handed me a small box containing a silver bracelet engraved with the coordinates of the place we had first met. Happy belated birthday, he said simply. No strings attached. I can leave right now if you want space. Instead, I invited him to walk with me along the shore. We talked for hours, not just about the birthday incident, but about deeper issues in our relationship. How I sometimes muted my needs to avoid conflict. How he occasionally took my accommodating nature for granted. For the first time, I spoke without filtering, without worrying about being perceived as demanding or difficult. I want a relationship where my needs matter as much as yours, I told him as waves crashed nearby. Where celebrations are not optional or easily postponed. Where I do not have to fight to be seen. I want that too, he replied. And I am willing to do the work to build it with you. If you will let me. He stayed for 2 days, then returned home with the understanding that I would complete my journey alone. His visit had shown me that setting boundaries did not necessarily mean ending relationships, it could mean transforming them into healthier versions. A few days later, my parents called. I answered with trepidation, unsure what to expect. We have been in family counseling, my mother began without preamble. All of us, including your brothers and Stephanie. The therapist helped us see patterns none of us recognized. How we unintentionally created a dynamic where your needs became secondary. How you adapted by becoming the peacekeeper. The one who never complained. We failed you, my father added, his voice thick with emotion. Not just on your birthday, but in 100 small ways over the years. We want to do better, Amanda. If you will give us the chance. Their humility and willingness to examine painful truths touched me deeply. We talked for over an hour, a conversation unlike any we had ever had before. They listened more than they spoke, truly hearing my experiences without becoming defensive or dismissive. The day before I was scheduled to return home, Stephanie arrived unannounced at the bed and breakfast, her expression anxious as she waited for my reaction. I know I should have called first, she began nervously. I will leave if you want me to. But I needed to see you, to apologize in person. We walked to a nearby cafe, settling into a quiet corner table. For the first time in our adult lives, Stephanie spoke with complete vulnerability about her own insecurities. I have always been jealous of you, she admitted, stirring her coffee absently. You are so competent, so put together. I felt like I had to make big splashy announcements just to get the attention you commanded naturally. My engagement becoming the family focus that overshadowed your birthday. It was not just accidental. Part of me always needs to be the center of attention because I feel invisible beside you. Her confession stunned me. I had no idea, I said softly. I always thought you were the favorite, the one everyone prioritized. We both laughed tearfully at the irony, each having envied what we thought the other possessed. The conversation that followed was healing in ways I had not anticipated, laying groundwork for a more authentic relationship between us. Before leaving Newport, I sat with Eleanor on the bed and breakfast porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in vibrant oranges and pinks. Have you found what you came looking for? She asked. Her weathered hands wrapped around a mug of tea. I think I found something I was not even aware I was seeking, I replied. The courage to advocate for myself, even with those I love most. She nodded approvingly. The most important boundaries are often the ones we set with family, precisely because they are the hardest to establish. Remember that true love makes room for all voices, all needs, including yours. I returned home with that wisdom echoing in my heart, ready to begin the work of rebuilding relationships on foundations of mutual respect and equitable care. My family had scheduled a group therapy session for the day after my return, their commitment to change manifesting in concrete action rather than mere words. As I packed my bags in the Newport bedroom that had sheltered my transformation, I realized that my forgotten birthday had ultimately given me something invaluable. The permission to claim my rightful place, not just within my family, but within my own life. 6 months after my forgotten 30th birthday, I sat in my parents' backyard surrounded by family, celebrating my brother Kevin's promotion. The atmosphere was relaxed, conversation flowing easily among us. To a casual observer, nothing would appear unusual about this family gathering. But I noticed the subtle yet profound changes that had reshaped our dynamics. My mother made a point of asking about my recent project at work, giving it the same attention she gave to Kevin's achievement. My father referenced an article related to my professional field, showing he had been following my career interests. Small acknowledgments, but significant in their departure from old patterns. The family therapy sessions we began after my Newport trip had continued monthly, providing a structured space to address ingrained behaviors and communication failures. The process had not been easy. There were difficult sessions where old hurts surfaced, tears flowed, and progress seemed elusive. But we persisted, committed to building healthier relationships. Stephanie's wedding planning continued, but with a noticeably different approach. She regularly checked in before making decisions that involved family, conscious now of balancing her needs with others. When she asked me to be her maid of honor, the conversation included explicit discussion of expectations and boundaries. I want you to be honest if anything about this role feels uncomfortable, she told me. Your feelings matter to me. Standing beside her at the altar 3 months earlier, I had felt genuine joy untainted by resentment. The ceremony celebrated their love without diminishing anyone else's importance. At the reception, my parents surprised me with a belated birthday toast, acknowledging my 30th milestone publicly and apologizing again for their past oversight. The gesture brought tears to my eyes not because I needed additional celebration, but because it represented their ongoing commitment to change. My personal therapy continued alongside the family sessions. Working with Dr. Marina Campbell, I explored patterns established in childhood, the peacekeeping middle child, the one who adjusted her needs to maintain family harmony. Through our weekly conversations, I developed tools for expressing needs directly rather than hoping others would intuit them. I practiced setting boundaries without guilt and recognizing when old patterns attempted to reassert themselves. Healing is not linear, Dr. Campbell reminded me during a particularly challenging session. There will be days when you fall back into familiar roles. The difference is that now you recognize when it is happening and can choose differently. My relationship with Brian evolved as well. After Newport, we entered couples counseling, examining how our individual histories influenced our dynamic. Brian acknowledged his tendency to take my accommodating nature for granted, while I admitted to silencing my needs rather than risking conflict. Together, we established new communication patterns, creating space for mutual understanding and genuine compromise. The previous week, he had surprised me with concert tickets to see an artist I loved, but he merely tolerated. "Your enjoyment matters as much as mine," he said simply. A statement that once would have seemed unnecessary, but now represented meaningful growth. Professional changes accompanied my personal transformation. I became more assertive at work, proposing ideas in meetings rather than waiting to be asked. I negotiated a raise based on my contributions rather than accepting the standard percentage increase. My boss, Margaret, noted the shift, commenting that my increased confidence had elevated my already strong performance. New friendship patterns emerged as well. I reconnected with Megan from work, explaining how her awareness of my birthday distress had ultimately catalyzed important family changes. Other relationships I reassessed, realizing some friendships reflected the same imbalanced dynamic I had experienced with family. Some relationships deepened through honest conversation, others I allowed to naturally fade. Most significantly, I developed a new relationship with myself. The daily journaling practice begun in Newport continued, providing space to check in with my authentic feelings and needs. I became more comfortable with solitude, enjoying activities alone rather than always accommodating others' preferences. Small acts of self-advocacy became habitual rather than exceptional. For my 31st birthday, I planned my own celebration, a weekend trip to a wilderness lodge with my closest friends and family. No elaborate surprise, just an honest expression of how I wanted to mark another year of life. Everyone attended, present not just physically but emotionally, fully engaged in celebrating without competing priorities. Around the campfire on the final evening, my father raised his mug of hot chocolate in a toast. To Amanda, who taught this old dog some new tricks. "Your courage in speaking your truth has made our family stronger. I am sorry it took a painful lesson to get us here, but I am grateful for the growth that followed." My mother squeezed my hand, adding softly, "You deserved better from us for a long time. Thank you for giving us the chance to do better now." Later that night, alone in my cabin, I reflected on the journey of the past year. The forgotten birthday that had caused such pain had ultimately triggered necessary growth and healing. The patterns established over decades had not disappeared entirely, but they no longer controlled our relationships unacknowledged and unchallenged. I thought of Eleanor from Newport and her wisdom about cracks in foundations. My family had chosen to repair rather than rebuild completely, addressing the weaknesses while preserving what remained strong. The process required ongoing attention and care, but the foundation now held steady even during disagreements and disappointments. The most profound lesson emerged not from the pain of being forgotten, but from the courage found in its aftermath. True family love makes room for all voices, all needs, all truths, even difficult ones. Even mine. Looking back at that empty house where I discovered the forgotten birthday and engagement announcement, I now see it as a turning point rather than merely a painful memory. Sometimes we need to feel truly unseen before we can advocate for our right to be recognized. Sometimes relationships must fracture before they can heal properly. As I prepare to begin another year of life, I carry forward not resentment for what was lost, but gratitude for what was found. My voice, my boundaries, my place within the family constellation. Not as the accommodating middle child who adjusts to maintain harmony, but as an equal member whose needs and celebrations matter as much as anyone else's. If you have ever felt forgotten or overlooked by those who should see you most clearly, I hope my story reminds you that speaking your truth, while painful, can lead to profound healing. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself with loved ones? How did it change your relationships? Share your experiences in the comments below, and if this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more journeys of personal growth and family transformation. Remember that your needs deserve to be acknowledged, your voice deserves to be heard, and your celebrations deserve to be remembered. Thank you for witnessing my journey from invisibility to being truly seen.